Welcome to the Saxon Show, your countdown to the future. First, I want you to take down my phone number in case you want to call. The number is 501-437-2963. In case you didn't get it, here it is again, 501-437-2963. Sorry, but we can't accept collect calls. Tonight's topic is The Meaning of Atlan. It was written in 1977. It's in Survivor Volume 2. Legend has it that there was once a great civilization called Atlantis. It is said that Atlantis had a highly developed technology with everything we have and more. Aside from airships, some even have said that they had links with civilizations in outer space. The story goes on that some great cataclysm destroyed Atlantis. Some say it was from great upheavals in the Earth's surface. Others say it was wiped out by atomic war. The great majority of the people died of starvation, riots, and wars fought over what was left of civilization. The survivors, most of whom were highly trained technologists, lost their great cities, industries, and technology. This left them helpless, and most of them reverted to savagery. From greatness, they were reduced to small bands of hunters and gatherers of roots and berries. Although Atlantis may have been a myth, the further back archaeologists go, the higher the skills acquired by the ancients have been discovered. The cavemen chipping crude flint axes and arrowheads may have been the degenerate descendants of men with knowledge and powers we can only dream of. A good example of this is the degenerate descendants of the Mayas, living like jungle animals in parts of South America today. Their ancestors, a once proud race, higher in mathematics than that of Europe of the same period. One might wonder how such giants of science and technology as the Atlans could degenerate into the savages archaeologists called first men. Ur of the Chaldees, Sumer, Babylon, Egypt, Rome, etc. also rose and then fell with a crash that left their survivors in various states of savagery. They were not as primitive as the cavemen, since their technologies were simpler and easier understood by the survivors. Even so, the fall of Rome produced 1,000 years of what we know as the Dark Ages. 10th century farmers plowed and planted in the great Roman Colosseum, wondering at the lush harvest. They didn't even remember that the plot of land had been fertilized by the blood of thousands of gladiators and animals slain in the great arena. Years ago, I was fascinated by how civilizations rose, provided comforts for the populace, erected great monuments to skill and industry, and then fell. If they had a system which worked for them, why didn't they go on to ever higher levels of refinement? Why did such powerful nation-states as Babylon, Greece, and Rome fall to such illiterate savages as the Scythians, early Romans, and Huns? Imagine New York City of 1880 being taken over by the Sioux. I think they could do it today. That these once great civilizations did degenerate to the point where they could be overrun by primitive barbarians is a fact. Then, after each fall, the survivors reverted to the most basic of the remaining wisdom, requiring the minimum of knowledge and skill. The survivors were usually of the peasant class who held onto their poor plots of ground and scratched out a bare living from the soil. Warlike barbarians would descend on such peasant groups and enslave them. Requiring more food for their soldiers for further conquests, they actually contributed to the growth of agriculture. Gradually, warrior-dominated peasants rebuilt civilizations, often far inferior to the previous civilization. Of course, in the beginning of such civilizations, only the strongest and hardiest survived. But as agricultural methods improved, more people were fed who would have otherwise starved and taken their weaker characteristics out of the gene pool. So, unfortunately, this surplus was also the means of preserving weaklings and defectives who should not have survived. Further, such weaklings were enslaved by the ruling classes, and when not being needed for agriculture, drifted to the cities and worked at unskilled jobs or lived on the dole or by begging. Of course, there were intelligent and skilled artisans and tradesmen in the cities, but the bulk of the population gradually was made up of rejects from agriculture. The average Roman was jobless, a proletarian, living on government handouts supplied largely by the legionnaires bringing back grain and other booty from foreign colonies and conquests. Today, the proletariat are known as unskilled workers or welfare recipients. Every culture, as it developed and assumed greatness, nurtured a breed of politicians catering to the useless. Roman politicians financed, through exorbitant taxes and even their own wealth, the building of great colosseums where were held chariot races, gladiatorial combats, and various forms of entertainment, such as feeding social dissidents, such as Christians, to lions. They also had millions of animals collected from all over the then-known world. These animals were slaughtered for the enjoyment of the simple-minded proletarians in the stands. The Romans made extinct literally dozens of animal species. The greater the show and the more degenerate the act, the more votes went to the sponsoring Roman politician. Thus, the most degenerate and wasteful politicians gained the most power over the state and its people. Bread in circuses was the method of not only placating an idle and riotous population, but in perpetuating a senate nearly as corrupt as our own. The lack of useful work, coupled with the low standards of social acceptability, turned a once great nation into a herd of irresponsible, weak-willed, feeble-minded degenerates, which were the greatest contributors to the nation's birth rate. In fact, the term proletariat also meant childbearers. When the Roman legions reached the furthest areas from which they could loot food from their subject colonies, starvation and social collapse set in. Thus Rome fell. Its artisans and intellectuals died out along with its degenerate proletariat. Then came the Dark Ages, ruled by illiterate princes and a corrupt priesthood, both groups of which destroyed as many of the men of reason as they could find, mainly through inquisitions. The illiterate princes raped the people through ruinous taxation to fight useless wars with each other and in their stupid crusades. The church not only sanctioned these practices, but kept hidden all the knowledge they had collected in the monasteries, which, had they released it, would have done immeasurable good. But their aim was religious domination, not social advancement. Further, the church chose for its celibate priesthood the most intelligent youth, whose genes might otherwise have gone to improve the race. Today, the church has lost most of its power, although it does its best to encourage the breeding of the poorest and most useless and degenerate of its followers. Happily, though, its loss of influence spares more intelligent men who would otherwise rob our gene pool by celibacy. In its place, homosexuality is taking over in the free world, initiating into a life of virtual celibacy many of the best specimens of our youth. Its spread ensures the robbing of our national gene pool by limiting future generations to those less attractive, intelligent, and consequently less able to contribute to society. In its turn, our civilization rose from virtual barbarism and has achieved the highest technology in known history. Our previously vast surpluses of food and fuel have led to a surplus population made up largely of the useless and degenerate. Instead of the paradise a controlled population could enjoy indefinitely, our technology is only contributing to the breeding of half-wits, murderous psychotics, liberals, and other perverts who are bringing down our civilization by the year. Adding to this are the changing weather patterns, which will only worsen in our time, plus a growing lack of resources, causing the mass starvation of literally billions of people. Worldwide collapse of civilization is imminent. It won't happen overnight, but in country by country and area by area, industry by industry, and so on. It could hit you tomorrow. So whether you're an auto mechanic, steel worker, or nuclear physicist, you have only a relatively short time in your present occupation. Your survival is up to you. Years ago, I saw the same factors appearing in our society which had led to the collapse of past civilizations. I particularly noted the specialization of the educated on the one hand and the frivolous interests and idleness of the less able on the other hand. I recalled the tales of the fall of Atlantis and its resultant barbarism. Knowing that the ignorant masses were doomed and the more able were locked into an interdependent technology, I searched for answers, as did many of my generation. I became a joiner of cults and causes, giving them my all. But almost without exception, every faction proved to be a dead end and led by self-serving phonies or psychotic fanatics. Again, recalling the fall of Atlantis, I began preparing a method by which I could provide knowledge to intelligent survivors of the future collapse. My main idea was that the biggest problem facing the survivors would be the lack of knowledge which they could apply to their own circumstances. As it was, the intelligent survivor could only hope to scrounge sustenance from the ruins. Such scrounging would prove futile in only a short time after the fall. I hit on the idea of collecting all the practical knowledge of the 19th century, as it was relatively simple and easy to apply. Also, it would ensure a standard of living far from primitive and a springboard to the technology we have today. Further, it is far easier for the layman to understand than modern texts on science and crafts. Back then, creative and knowledgeable people wrote their instructions for use by anyone interested, whether he had any background in the field or not. Today, books on science and technology are written mainly to those who are expected to be already pretty well grounded on a particular subject. Also, they wrote in plain language, not showing off their expertise in terms only their fellow experts could understand, as is often done today. 19th century terms unfamiliar to us were not used to show off or to conceal knowledge from the uninitiated. They were just the terms people used in those days. Most such old-fashioned terms have been updated in Granddad's Wonderful Book of Chemistry. For years, I've been collecting such knowledge, and am now, and in the near future, hoping to assemble all the practical knowledge applicable to the needs of future survivalists. So Atlan formularies is simply a figurative reference to the real or mythological Atlantis and a remedy for people in their comparative situation. After the crash of world civilization, there will be chaos and universal suffering and death. Yet, unlike the original Atlans, we can revert to a level of technology the intelligent layman can implement. The survivor volumes will take care of the daily problems 19th century people handled with such ingenuity. In short, my books will give you a level of technology, both interesting and practical, useful even today. You need not fear death from want, ignorance, or from human predators. I've been told and agree that had I omitted the grimmer aspects of the coming chaos, I could reach more people. Selling only nostalgia and 19th century handicrafts, I could appeal to far more buyers and make more money. But that approach would have had me catering to hobbyists or nostalgia buffs. I'm telling it like it is. I'm not interested in hobbyists or nostalgia buffs. I'm aiming my material at the strong-minded individualist, the only type who can and should survive. I have no political solutions. My only admonition to my readers insofar as the future system is to not let another Atlantis happen again. My paramount advice to future generations would be to limit their offspring to only that amount they can provide for and manage with the love and individual care which develops strong citizens. No social dependent should be allowed to enlarge his dependency. That is, the individual who cannot provide for himself should not be allowed to reproduce. If this simple rule had been followed, there would never have been a surplus population. Hordes of fertile idiots and genetic defectives procreating like unmanaged livestock would not have toppled nearly every civilization I've mentioned. It's too late for today's majority to escape the fate of Atlantis. But with individual effort and stern measures of population control, paradise on Earth could be a reality. The next generation, descended from the surviving remnants of this one, could inaugurate the next step in the evolution of human civilization. Then our surpluses could go not to the upkeep of human vermin, but to the provision of land and well-equipped homes for all, and then even starships. Okay, here I am again. The phone number is 501-437-2963. And the mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. And if you send in your $10 for the introductory packet, you'll get a sample copy of U.S. Militia, the only magazine for community defense, and Shoestring Entrepreneur, how to sell anything you can make or grow, and also a copy of David Koresh's Last Testament, and that you get a $5 credit on either subscription. And also you can order the Corona Grain Mill for $44. It weighs 11 pounds. It has to go by UPS, so you have to give your delivery address rather than the post office box, and it'll last you all your life and keep you from ever being hungry. Incidentally, the last batch of packets went out today, so you should get them in a few days. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Hello, Kurt. This is Henry. And
Hi, Henry.
How are you doing today?
Doing fine.
Good. I got a few things for you. I just want to let you know I got my packet last week, and it did take about 3.5 weeks. So listeners, just be patient. It will come.
Yeah, well, it'll get there quicker now that the big mess is over.
Yeah, well, I have some information here some of the listeners might be interested in.
Okay, Henry.
You keep talking about, get yourself a lathe, a metalworking lathe.
Yeah.
That you can go into business with.
Yeah.
And I found one here. Now, I haven't ordered one, but I'm considering it. And it's a small shop lathe.
Yes.
It's only about 48 inches long and 3 feet high. It looks like you could do about anything you want as far as making spare parts and such on.
Oh, yeah. Well, does it have a milling attachment?
Yes, it does. It's a mill and a drill and a lathe.
Well, my goodness, you can't beat that. What does it cost?
Well, it costs $1,500.
That's not bad.
No, not for one this size. I've seen...
Well, we're talking about a business, a profession,
yes.
Something that'll make you money, not a hobby.
I've seen equivalent lathes to this for over $2,000.
Yeah.
So if listeners would like, the name of it is a smithy.
Yes, smithy.
There's a phone number here for a catalog.
Everybody get your pencil, write this down.
Okay, it's 1-800-345-6342.
Give the number again.
1-800-345-6342.
And they'll get a catalog?
Yeah, they can order a catalog. The outfit is up in Oregon.
Yeah.
And it's called Smithy.
Yes.
It's a beautiful catalog, so I think listeners might be...
It has all kinds of attachments. Does it
yes, everything.
Does it have other shop machinery?
Yes, they do.
Okay, well, I advise everybody to call. It's not going to cost you anything. Just give them a call and have them send you the catalog, and it might be the salvation of your whole family, maybe part of your community.
Yeah, well, like I say, I'm going to get one here in about a month. I can get the money together. I'm going to go ahead and order one.
Yeah.
And I had something else. I noticed a lot of callers in, including myself. I wonder, when is this going to happen?
Oh, don't you wish I know?
And, well, I thought about that, and I said, well, it would be nice to know. And so I came up with a list and an idea on when you can tell it's getting close.
Yes.
And if I could read part of this.
Not a whole lot.
No, not a whole lot.
Okay.
But generally, for the listeners, the first thing you would want to do is note your present status of your society and the economy around you.
Yeah.
So that you have a reference to how things are now.
Yes.
Then when things start happening, first you would look for shortages of normally plentiful goods or materials. You go to a store to get something that's always there, and the clerk says they're having trouble getting them.
Yeah.
Because of breakdowns or something. Okay?
Yes.
You'd look for something like that. Next, you might want to watch for rationing of anything, either local or nationwide. Rationing of gas, rationing of clothes, or something that was never rationed before.
Yes.
Next, you might want to watch for cutbacks of government services, such as road repairs, longer time to service outages of water or sewer, layoffs in civil service and such due to no funds, and breakdown with fire and police services.
And mail.
And mail, yes. Another thing you might watch for, signs of economic instability on Wall Street. Something that goes on continual or for months, financial chaos or financial disasters where people are losing a lot of money. Okay?
Yeah.
And another thing you might watch for, increased numbers of transients in your area or your neighborhood.
Oh, that's happening all over.
Well, it's happening now, but you'd want to look for an increase.
Yeah.
Something becoming a little bit worse than usual.
Well, we didn't have any homeless in Branson, Missouri up until a few months ago.
Yeah, well, that's a sign of an increase. That's, things are happening.
Yes.
And, well, several other things might be, riots occurring for food, gas, or other supplies, which never occurred before. This could be in any cities anywhere.
Yes.
But they never occurred before, and all of a sudden they're starting. And just one more real quick would be severe natural disasters. Now, we've had a lot of these, granted, the quakes and droughts and floods. But you'd want to watch for repeated disasters that are going to affect long-term supplies of food or something.
Yes.
That's going to cause future shortages.
Well, with the Los Angeles quake costing $30 billion, and the cost isn't really in for the floods, and of course the winters coming down from Canada really costs a lot of money that isn't even talked about.
Right. Well, the thing would be, if they're one-shot deals, that area of the country could recover the next year. You know, like if the Southeast had a drought, maybe next year they would have plenty of rain and good crops.
Well, what I'm talking about is a fantastic drain on the government funds.
Yeah.
There could be recovery, yes, but when the government has to keep on shelling out billions and billions of dollars for one natural disaster after another, that mounts up.
Right, and it will take its toll. Well, anyhow, that was just some things that the listeners could kind of figure for themselves, you know,
yes.
what to watch for.
Yes.
And when these things increase and they start to become critical, then I figure the end is pretty close.
Yes. Well, also, you see, what you didn't talk about is just about anybody, regardless of what he thinks of what I say, can remember that last year was better than this year, and the year before that was better than last year. And things are getting worse in a way that anybody can see. Now, me being 60 years old, I know how things were when things were good. I know how things were when things were looking up. That was in the 50s.
Yeah.
And after the 50s, they stopped looking up. And now they've been looking down from then on, and things are getting worse year by year. So even young people can remember how things were better last year and the year before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that too. I'm 53 now, and I grew up in the 50s. And
yes.
They were better.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, I've only got just one more thing here. And,
okay.
And I'll let some other people get online. One thing that you're talking about self-sufficiency and the ways to support yourself that you hadn't mentioned.
Yeah.
And that's a rototiller.
Rototiller, that's good.
Right, for doing gardens and that. Cause, I have one, and there's always people who want their gardens rototilled.
Oh, yes, that's very good.
You can do it for a few dollars. So I recommend, if you're in that area where you could use it, for the listeners, a good rototiller would be an excellent investment.
Well, especially in the next couple of months.
Yes.
Well, after things start drying out, you could do very good. A person rototilled my garden before I gave up on it and decided on tire gardens. But not every place is a seedbed like Arkansas, so it doesn't have so much rocks. So rototiller in a place with relatively few rocks, you could go around from garden to garden, and also you could talk people into putting gardens in where there hadn't been a garden before. Mm-hmm. And it like $25 for a couple of hours work. That's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all. Okay, well, I'll get off the line here and let someone else get on. Just like to tell you, I've caught just about every program since you've been on, and I've sent in an order for 3 of the poor man's James Bonds and chemistry and a bunch of other stuff.
Well, you're going to love them when you get them.
Oh, I'm sure I will. So keep up the good work.
You too.
Okay,
thank you, Henry. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, the phone number is 501-437-2963. And the mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. And if you send $10, you'll get an introductory packet with a sample copy of U.S. Militia, Shoestring Entrepreneur, and David Koresh's Last Testament. And if you subscribe to either publication, you get $5 off. And if you'd like to get some of these tapes, they are $6 each or $25 for a week's shows, and that's postpaid. That's P.O. Box 326, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Good evening. I'm calling you from the state of Ohio.
Yes.
And a couple of things. I just heard someone talking about rototilling, and I've been doing this for probably 3 years.
Yes.
And I do it just simply on a part-time basis.
Yes.
And I have a Kubota tractor, and I generally charge something like $25 per garden. And the idea is I don't advertise at all. It's all word of mouth.
Oh, yes.
And last year now, I made about $2,000 just part-time. And I think the idea would be for an individual to start something like that, do it with the idea of a building, see? You don't do it overnight.
Yeah.
And I've been extremely pleased with it, and I've even thought about doing it full-time, but I'm enjoying the way it is, and it's just a little extra income, but like it could be something that a man could fall back onto.
Also, it's you get cash, don't you, for the most part?
Yes, I sure do. Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's a consideration. You.
And it's besides that, it's just something that's fun to do, you know. And
oh yeah, well you're outdoors, and you're probably talking to the people, and it's well like when I used to work for people, house painting, things like that. It was very pleasant generally.
Yes, and another thing that I've just started doing, and I think, of course, up here we have a lot of wood, and I'm just starting into the chain saw sharpening.
Yes.
And a fellow just has a few things, you know, whether the economy goes bananas or whether it gets better, it doesn't make any difference.
No, it doesn't. And the worse it gets, actually, the better it'll be for you because more people will be putting in gardens.
I think so. I just thought I'd just pass that information along, and if a person gets into it, it's like any business. It takes a couple of years, maybe 5 years, and if they've got an idea of doing it, they need to get started on it.
Well, I don't know where you're talking about 2 or 5 years. You get your rototiller and you go knocking on doors.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm saying if you just start it and let it, and just get into it gradually, that's right. I don't advertise.
Yeah, well, I know, but you wouldn't need to advertise.
Oh.
Just you see some place with a garden, and you just go around and knock on the door and tell the person that you'll rototill the garden. That way they don't need to break their backs and get disinterested in gardening.
Well, what normally does it for me is that I'll be doing a garden in a small community.
Yeah.
Quite often, the neighbor will see it.
Yes. Well, you start with knocking on 1 or 2 doors. See, you don't need to go beyond that. Usually.
Oh, I don't think so. I think that's right.
Yeah.
And I think over the 3 or 4 years that I've done this, I probably spent $30 advertising, and now I don't do it at all. So it's there. It's just something that a person could do, enjoy, and make a little extra on the side as well.
Much better than mowing lawns.
Well, mowing lawns ties you down so much.
Yes, it does, and you can't get enough pay for it. But with the one-shot, a little 20 by 20 garden for $25, that's very good.
Listen, I appreciate talking at me here, and I'm going to turn the radio back on and listen at you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Okay, again, the phone number is 501-437-2963, and the mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. Hello, Kurt here.
How you doing? I just heard a fellow talking about lathes.
Yes?
I've got one. I've used it for years, and one thing you have to worry about with those smaller ones,
yeah,
a lot of them aren't back geared, so they don't have the low speed on them.
Yes.
You can only do really small pieces of metal with them, and that's one of the things. That's why some of them are so cheap.
Well, let's see now. I'm not familiar with your terminology there. Maybe a lot of people who are interested in a lathe aren't.
Okay.
So you say back geared.
Right.
The
smaller lathes, they have a pulley in the back. The motor has a belt goes up to the pulley, and then that pulley goes to the pulley on the headstock.
Yes. Okay. So what would you want to make sure you got when you asked for a lathe?
Okay. You want to make sure it's got a back gear. The back gear gives it a low speed.
Okay. So that's basically it. See, you want a low speed because if it's going too high, you're going to lose control, right?
Right. For anything over like 2.5, 3 inches, you need a back gear, depending on the type of metal, whether it's stainless steel or whatever.
Yes.
But you definitely do need a back gear. A lot of those smaller machines aren't rigid enough either. Yeah. That's another problem with them. So
okay, I would say to my listeners, if you call that company, ask if that machine has a back gear, and if it does, fine.
Right. Another thing with the some of the milling head attachments they have for them,
yes,
or some of the smaller milling machines that they sell.
Yes.
You pretty much can't do too much unless you've got, I don't know, I always go in for a power down feed because then you can bore things with it.
You want a power down feed too?
On the milling head, yeah.
Back gear and power down feed.
Right,
write that down.
Okay. What else can I tell you about? I guess that's about it.
Well, is it fun?
Hello?
Is it fun?
What, the lathe or?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I've made all sorts of things with it. I mean, I've built backhoe attachments and wood planer with it. And
yes.
I mean, I've done all kinds of crazy things with it.
Well, it should be enjoyable. That's part of it, because if you do something that you hate to do, then you're not going to be enthusiastic enough about it to want to get more work.
Right. Okay, what else did I want to tell you? Another thing, if somebody is looking for property or something down south, I'm up in a city area, Connecticut, but up here they have what they call a multiple listing service.
Yes.
So every realtor you go to knows what the other realtors have for sale,
Yes.
property-wise. And we went down south. We went down to Tennessee and Kentucky and that area, and they don't have multiple listing service down there. So if you go to one realtor, he doesn't know what the other realtor has. And I found that if you do hit a small town or something, it's best to get the phone book and go to every realtor in town, 4 or 5 of them, because there's a very wide variation in prices on what they're selling property for. Some of the towns we went to, they were selling property for 200 an acre, another 400, 600 acre, 800. I mean, a really wide variation in prices.
Well, what I advise, and you have just about done it, is if you're thinking about a certain area of the country, pick a town, usually a small town, because you want a rural area, so you want a rural town, and then because you want a rural area, so you want a rural town, and then call the phone, talk to your telephone operator, connect it with the information for that area, and ask for their phone book from that area.
Right, some of them charge for it now.
Okay, so they'll charge you $1 or $2. They can't give them away.
Right.
But say you call the Harrison Phone Company, and then tell them to send you a phone book of Harrison, and that would list all of the realtors in Harrison, Arkansas, and around Harrison, well, in the whole county.
Right.
See, so it doesn't matter if it's Paducah, Kentucky, or whatever. Just call the phone company in that area and have them send you a phone book.
Right, that's if you know the area that you want to go to.
Well, if you have a good idea where you want to go to.
Yeah, because we drove around for like 2 weeks. We checked out, like North Carolina is really expensive now.
Yes.
They also have building codes there and stuff like that. Tennessee and Kentucky do not have, some of the counties in Tennessee have building codes, but a lot of them still don't have building codes and they don't require permits.
Yes. Well, I think State Farm has a very good catalog of places all over the country.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we checked what they call it, National Realty, which advertises in most of the magazines and stuff.
Yes.
And some of the stuff is overpriced. You will find that there's competition between realtors.
Well, you don't need to spend a lot of time with a realtor. You just say, what is your average price for a house on an acre of land?
Right.
Here, it's not very high at all in Alpena.
Okay.
And around Harrison, well, I'd say that for what you can buy here, you would pay 3 times back east or on the west coast.
What does land go for around there? A couple hundred an acre? Or?
Oh, no, it's not. You don't want to buy land by the acre because
Okay,
it would be more. It's so much easier to simply buy a house already built, because it costs more to build a house on raw acreage.
I don't know. I've been doing it. I always find it's cheaper to build your own house, because sometimes, like we saw houses around the Cookeville area, Tennessee, and they were getting, for the house, like they were adding another, $50,000 or $60,000 on.
Yes.
And you can buy property there. One place is like 400 acres for $70,000.
Well, you don't need 400 acres.
Well, I do.
Okay, if you do, but the average person who wants to simply get away from the rat race would do fine with an acre.
Right.
And if you buy a house like in the South, a house on an acre of land will cost you about $30,000.
Right. But if a person is looking for something that you can hunt on and have timber to build a house or something,
well, you can get that too. It costs you $40,000 then for
a little bit more for the land.
A house from 15 to 20 acres.
Right, and we always find it's also a big difference if there's water on the property. It's always good to buy a piece of property if there's a stream or something, if they're buying a nice tract for farming or cattle or something like that.
Well,
say that if there's no water on the property, it ain't worth anything. That's basically what most people say.
Well, just so you can get water to it. Maybe if the nearest town puts water out to it, that's fine, or if they got a well.
Right. One other thing, I was living in an Amish community down in Tennessee for a while, and what they do, just in case anybody's interested, they had a hydraulic ram over there.
Yeah.
And they used to pump that up to pump the water from the stream up to their houses.
Yeah.
And since they didn't have refrigerators, what they did is they had a basin, a steel
Mhm.
basin, sometimes a concrete basement in their basement.
Yeah.
And they'd run the line from the hydraulic ram into that, and then out, an out thing on the other side of it. And that would keep their food cool. And that's what they do for refrigeration.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It
They don't
works.
have to walk down to the stream or something.
Okay, then.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Bye for now. Okay, the number is 501-437-2963. And the mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Hello, Kurt. This is Warren in Mississippi again.
Hi, Warren.
Talking about the machine lathes, I have a home machine shop that's...
turn down the volume of your radio.
Oh, just a second. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah, I have a home machine shop that's quite well equipped, and the man was talking about the smithy, and I went through finding this stuff myself, and it cannot handle very large stuff to work on. About the biggest you could work on would be model engines and perhaps pistol-size work, and it wouldn't even come close to handling a rifle barrel.
Oh, well, okay, it was a good idea, but...
I've got a couple of recommendations. There's an outfit called Grizzly Imports, and their phone number is 1-800-541-5537, and they have the very best prices on stuff like vertical mills and lathes and heavy-duty woodworking equipment.
Yeah, well, I've heard of Grizzly. Give the phone number again.
It's, it's not like Swiss-made, but it's good, solid stuff.
Yeah, well, give the phone number again.
Okay, it's 1-800-541-5537. And there's another outfit, similar Harbor Freight, is Northern Hydraulics. Have you heard of them?
Well, I've been giving out the number of Harbor Freight for the last...
Yes, they're very good. I buy from them.
Mm-hmm.
And the Northern Hydraulics is very similar, but somewhat different.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like the phone number on the Northern Hydraulics?
Yes.
Okay, so 1-800, and it's 533-5545.
Well, that's very good. I'm sure that'll be helpful to a lot of people.
Okay, thanks for the info.
Thank you very much. Bye for now. Okay, again, the phone number is 501-437-2963, and just in case you came upon the program, the frequency is 5.810 megahertz. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Yeah, I'd like to cross swords with you here. I wonder if you'd give me a chance to speak to you.
Always do.
Okay. The thing is that you don't seem to... You talked about Atlantis tonight. Unfortunately, what happened there is the whole goddamn continent fell. It collapsed into the water, so everybody with food and all that other nonsense never survived because the whole continent collapsed.
Yeah.
But I want to go further than this. The thing is that you're talking about this gene pool and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me, you're already talking about going back to the Stone Ages when you've only been in a pristine country for about 200 years. The fact is that the reason the problems are existing, and it's existed throughout the history of civilization, is the massive taxation and the grab of monies by all the governments throughout history. And this has caused the dislocation, the unemployment, the difficulties that people had existing, and it's been through all history. The other thing is that this gene pool thing, you forget to take into consideration that for at least 30 or 40 years, cars had leaded gasoline spewing into the air all through the world, and which was bringing on mental retardation. What about the massive amount of mercury put in people's mouths by dentists for album, or whatever it's called, which was leaking out mercury gas? And what about dioxin that's been put into paper that people are utilizing? You don't take these things into consideration when you're talking about the degeneration of the abilities of people. And what about the massive propagandas that go on in the media, which actually brainwash people into believing certain things superficially? I'd like to hear your response.
All right, let's go back to the taxation. As a civilization downbreeds, the people become more ignorant. Therefore, there are more people on the dole, and that causes whatever government is to tax everybody else to take care of them, as happened during the time of Rome. Now, I know about all of the pollution. That is a factor, but it's not the whole factor. Downbreeding is a fact of life. It's a fact of nature.
Well, the fact is that if the governments decided to tax in a different way, in a different manner, which would actually help people who are involved in businesses, this would create employment, gainful, productive employment. The fact is that your idea, if something happens to the whole of the continent of the United States, everybody's up a creek regardless of how much stuff they put aside. It seems to me it's the wrong direction.
Wait.
Go ahead.
I didn't say that the continent was going to collapse. I said the system will collapse. Mm-hmm. Now, people living in rural areas won't be too much affected by that. It'll be mainly the urban dwellers where most of the defectives live. See, now as far as the another thing about the taxation and everything else wrong with the government, an ignorant electorate votes for people like Clinton. And the more ignorant the electorate becomes, the more people like Clinton get into office. So your whole government scheme syncs with the ability of the ignorant populace.
Let's be honest. It is just a few people in the nation that really make contributions and discoveries that change the lives of all of us. Take Henry Ford, who brought in a new idea of production of automobiles, which changed radically the whole way of life in Canada and the United States and the rest of the world.
It is
only a few individuals who have this capacity to see beyond the normal circumstances really that make this contribution to all of humanity. And to assume that these people are not going to be around in future and make new discoveries in the field of energy, in the field of transportation, in the field of agriculture, in the field of astronomy and all the other chemistry and all the other sciences, it seems to me a dead end. You cannot go back to the Stone Age and then try to rebuild up reinventing the wheel. It's unnecessary.
You are absolutely
new people,
right.
New ideas will come into the forefront.
They
will bring the things that humanity requires. It's not necessary. And the fact is, why should people ghettoize themselves? You're advocating that people go into small communities, know each other casually, and everybody does their own thing. I mean, it's not. It's certainly we've passed through that stage eons ago, millennium ago.
No, you see, I differ with you in this respect. You are of the scientific school that says no matter what happens, science is going to come to the rescue. But that is not necessarily so. If that were so, Rome would not have fallen. Now, you're right in talking about a few talented individuals meaning so much to so many people. But why should their efforts be to simply maintain the living standards of ignorant, riotous, worthless vermin like we have running our streets today? I say get rid of that trash, and the Henry Fords that spring up can take us to the stars. That's my idea.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about...
Unfortunately, I disagree with you that the people are trash. It seems to me that the world is really not made for the lucky and the lucky and who else?
Well, you see,
the lucky and the powerful. It's not made just for them. I deal with the people you call trash, and looking at them and seeing them from a distance, or even looking at them, makes you think one thing. But once you start speaking to people, all they really want is a gainful, productive employment and the ability to be able to utilize the talents that each of us have. That's all they're asking. They're not asking for handouts because these handouts really don't solve anything. They know it just as well as you do.
Well, I lived among welfare people for 3 years. I know what they are, and I know they are vermin. I wasn't lucky. I simply had ability, which I applied.
Right.
They didn't have ability. They didn't care to develop ability. And if they had any ability, they wouldn't bother to apply it. And there are just too many of them. We've got to get rid of them. But I don't have to do anything. It's going to take care of itself. But look, you've stated your case, and it's a good case, and I appreciate it. Call me again, will you?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hello, Kurt Saxon here. The number is 501-437-2963. The mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. And here's another call. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Hello, Kurt. This is Dave.
Hello, Dave.
Yeah, I'm calling. My call letters are N4DQL, and I'm calling from Tallahassee, Florida.
Good.
We had you hit the 11 o'clock news last night with your noise bomb.
Yes.
And it seems we've had a rash of explosions. One person was seriously injured.
Yes.
It seems a group of individuals, they were placing them into glass bottles.
Oh, that's awful.
Well, I think it's a pretty low-type person that would do that.
Well, when they catch him, they ought to kill him.
Well, we should catch him. I'm a member of the militia.
Well,
and
go
we've
and
known
do
each
it.
other for, several years.
You have my permission to kill him, Dave.
If I could get him, Kurt, I'll take him down.
Yes.
But if any of your listeners decide to use explosives, use it for a constructive purpose like Alfred Nobel.
Yes.
And not at a random...
Okay, now you talk about my noise bomb, which is on tape too, the poor man Jim strikes.
Right, they
strikes
had
again.
the Tallahassee police spokesman demonstrate a Coca-Cola bottle, plastic, and then fill with hydrochloric acid, which they didn't tell, and he dropped aluminum in, and then they showed it,
yes.
rupture.
Well, now that makes a fantastic noise bomb. Before I put that on tape, a person called me and told me about it, and it sounded like a clever idea, and so I tried it out, and sure enough, it worked.
Oh, I think it's great for parades and shopping malls to give everybody a laugh.
Well, yeah,
but,
after they stop screaming.
Of course, but you don't put stuff like that in a glass bottle.
Well, whoever did that it was vicious. It wasn't a prank. It was just awfully vicious. I mean, that's something that I would go to Stickfinger Gulch. Well, that's Lover Lane.
Right.
And I would...
well, we've had a pretty big problem down here.
Well, I mean, let me finish, David.
Yes.
And I would put that under a car that was shaking up and down and then run.
Right.
But you see, it would be for fun. It wouldn't be to hurt anyone. But to do that with a glass bottle, that's horrible. But so some of the readers might not know what we're talking about. See, the idea is to take a 2-liter pop bottle and cut up a soft drink can, aluminum, and then put about a half a pint or a pint of hydrochloric acid in there and put on the top and twist it good. And it takes about 45 seconds to start, and then it takes about a minute and a half before it builds up enough pressure to explode. And that is a fantastic noise. In fact, it's on my tape. You can see it for yourself. But to put that in glass, the worst thing about that, even to the user, is there's no way of telling how long it's going to take to build up the pressure. It might take 5 or 10 minutes. And also, if the idiot who did it has an idea, well, maybe it's not going to do it, and he goes up to it, then he could just destroy his face or whatever. But no, I think, David, if you catch the guy who did it, do a little vigilante on him.
I definitely will. I think it's a group of juveniles because there's been about 20 incidents. and it just reflects very bad.
Well, I don't even, was there any indication that they had seen my tape?
The police reenacted your tape.
Well, now, wait a minute. Wait, you've got my tape, so that's
right.
the first thing you would
They
think of.
used a Coca-Cola bottle.
I know that, Dave, but you see...
your tape shows a Pepsi.
Okay, but see, the thing is, it wasn't my original idea. Now, if it wasn't my original idea, since it's such a simple principle, people all over the country could have the idea. What I was asking, did they mention my tape so that some newspaper reporter isn't going to jump on me and blame me for it?
No, I didn't pick up the Tallahassee Democrat. I'll go down tonight and get it.
Well,
but it looks like they might try to throw the blame on you.
Well, they'd have to, if they catch the person and find the tape in his home, even so, my tape is a simple noise bomb. It wasn't glass. It wasn't harmful.
Right, and legally it wasn't an explosive because it doesn't burn.
That's right. Well, Dave, I sure appreciate your call.
Okay, 73's Kurt to all the ham operators out there.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye for now. Okay, 501-437-2963 is the phone number. And the mailing address for the packet and whatever is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. And the frequency is 5.810 megahertz. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Hello, Kurt. I wanted to ask you, the other day a caller called and asked about stockpiling stuff to use for barter.
Yes.
And I was wondering about ammunition. What would be good calibers to stockpile in quantity?
Well, 30-06, 12 gauge, and 12 gauge shotgun shells,
yes.
and 38. And also 22 long rifle. They're very cheap. You can buy them by the case, and most people have a 22 rifle. They're good for defense. They're not the best thing for defense, but if you put a 22 round in somebody and he knows it, and then also 45 ACP, just a general. I wouldn't go for the exotic loads.
The common stuff that most
yeah,
people are likely to
22 long rifle, 38 caliber, 45 caliber, 12 gauge shotgun, and 30-06. Those are the basics. I wouldn't go in for the exotic ones. I wouldn't buy a lot of ammunition for semi-automatics because a shotgun is better than any semi-automatic anyway. And you get your person if you point a shotgun at them, but if you point at... In fact, I think I'll read my editorial on fantasy and weaponry and maybe Monday.
Okay. Also, I had one comment about your answer to one of the previous callers tonight.
Yes.
I agree with you that sooner or later the good working people are going to have to separate from the riffraff.
Well, of course.
And I hope it's sooner.
Well, that's what I'm trying to arrange.
Yeah, I can't stand it much longer.
Well, move here.
I already live out in the rural area.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Bye-bye.
Phone number is 501-437-2963. The mailing address is P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. Send in $10 for the introductory package. You'll get a sample copy of U.S. Militia, Shoestring Entrepreneur, and the David Koresh publication. And you will get $5 credit on any subscription. So then, of course, there's the Jeffries audio for the tape. That's P.O. Box 326, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. $6 each, or $25 for a week's shows. And they're post-paid. Here's another caller. Hello, Kurt Saxon here.
Oh, hello, Kurt. This is Stuart from New York City.
Hi, Stuart.
I love your show, and I'm hoping to get your intro pack any day now. I was wondering if you think someone could get started in the country if they couldn't buy, if they didn't have money to buy land or a house.
Well, you can always rent.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering if it's possible and if it's advisable.
Well, what do you do, Stuart?
Well, I'm a student right now, but I was, provided
What are you studying?
Excuse me?
What are you studying?
Geology.
Geology. Well, that wouldn't be too much help. I study geology myself. It's fascinating, but
yeah.
I don't know how you could apply it.
No, I would look into something like a lathe or something like that.
Well, why don't you order you order my introductory packet, and when you get it, order a set of the survivors.
Right.
Well, also subscribe to Shoestring Entrepreneur, and you will get probably 9 back issues of the Survivor. Now, I had promised 11, but we've ran out of 2 issues.
Right.
But this will give you a wealth of trades that anyone can do. You're an educated man. You could understand it. You could find something that you could do. And also, you see, the Shoestring Entrepreneur has it lists books with just a fantastic range of very cheap professions that will really get you started on something. You get a garden like 80 foot by 20 foot, and you grow Chinese vegetables.
Uh-huh.
And that would make you a fantastic living too. Huh. Well, one couple, they put up a small greenhouse just with wood and plastic and grew nothing but tomatoes, and they were making $45,000 a year.
Wow.
It does not take a lot of money or skill to make a living. And my books, my works are directed to take care of that.
Right. Well, I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, did you order it?
Yeah, I ordered the intro pack about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, then it's on its way to you.
So I'm looking forward to it next week, I guess.
Well, let's hope. It depends on the mail, but and I did send out my last bulk mailing today. From now on, they'll go out book rate,
right?
Which is considerably faster than bulk rate.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for everything, Kurt.
Well, thank you very much, Stuart.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we got 2 minutes, and the phone is 501-437-2963. Send in that $10 to P.O. Box 95, Alpena, Arkansas, 72611. You'll get a copy of U.S. Militia, Shoestring Entrepreneur, and David Koresh's Last Testament, and also a certificate giving you $5 off on either subscription. And so, like I said, from now on, the packets are going out book rate, which is considerably faster than bulk rate. See, with bulk rate, I got to wait until I get 200 orders, and it took me a little over a week the last time. So that with the book rate, they go out the day that we get the order. So anyway, it's just about closing time. But let me just sort of revamp that thing about barter goods. If you don't have anything else to do with your money, buy 22 long rifles, 38 caliber, 45 ACP. Okay. Kurt Saxon here. You got 1 minute.
Kurt from Archibald, Ohio.
Yes.
Could you hold off on reading that essay on weaponry till Tuesday? I can't get your show on Monday night.
Okay, I will read it Tuesday.
I look forward to hearing it.
Well, let's say a couple of words, and let's just run this show down.
Well, I've been listening for about 3 weeks now. I'm excited about the show. I might not agree with everything you say.
You don't have to.
That's right. I do agree with you.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now it's sign-off time. I'll talk to you tomorrow. So this is Kurt Saxon saying goodbye and be good.